Hello, pocket knife community, knife lovers, knife enthusiasts, interested viewers. Folder here. I want to do an initial impression of the Sun TS Maverick. Yeah, an initial impression, and just kind of talk about something about this knife because this is absolutely incredible. Let me just start out by saying that the price of knives, as we know today, aren't based on the sum of their materials. It extends past that, right? So we have M390 steel here, drop point blade with full titanium, 3D heavy textured scales. So you're talking about pretty much cream of the crop, pretty much. M390 with a very good heat treat is a super steel, one of the best steels made. Titanium is titanium speaks for itself. Amazing, durable, rust proof. I mean, it's just it's the best. So we have a knife like the TS177 Maverick that has these attributes for a fraction of the price. But that's not all. Because there's another attribute that is usually reserved for high level items. Okay? So I just want you to watch me open and close this knife and observe the action, and I'll explain as I do it. So I'm using the flipper tab to deploy it. I'm breaking the lock at the top of the lockout, and the drop shetty action of the blade just comes down extremely smooth. On the inside of the handle here, where your index finger goes, right in this section here, on this particular knife, right where the lock bar meets the show side of the scale, is extremely smooth. I mean, like very smooth. Like they really smooth this out. So when you actually do the action on this knife, there's no jimping on the lock bar. It's not necessary because frame locks do a lot better than liner locks with that. And once you come out of full lockup, right? Once you hit the lock bar and come out of full lockup, then you just have to sort of slide your finger down, and then you release and close the blade. That whole process is extremely smooth on this knife. And the fact that it is drop shutty. And having a knife drop shutty is not as easy as one might imagine. You're talking about the geometry of the blade, you're talking about the weight of the blade, you're talking about the bearings, you're talking about the lock bar mechanism itself. You know, how is it tuned? How the tuning of this literally is the position of it, the shape of it, the weight of it, how much tension is on it, what is the memory of the steel, of the titanium. The reason why there's an over travel stop is so you don't push this bar so far past it that you mess up the tuning of the knife. So in the computer world of laptops, modern day laptops, you could always tell a laptop that's expensive without even cutting it on. And this is how you can tell. Today's laptops have the top of the laptop and the bottom part, the top where the screen is and the bottom part where the keys are about the same size. It's not like old laptops that had huge thick bases and then the top. So if you opened up the top, the base would stay closed. Today's modern laptops, the weight distribution is equal. So when you lift up the top to open the screen, if the bottom of your laptop also rises with that top, then more likely than not, you have a cheap laptop. But if you lift up open the screen on the laptop and the base stays closed, then you more likely than not have an expensive laptop, something over $1,000, over $1,300, and $1,500, $2,000. And the reason why that is because the tuning that it takes to tune the hinges is not hard to do, but cheaper laptops, they're not going to go through the trouble of tuning those hinges so that stays down. What they're going to do is when you go to open it and the bottom comes up with the top, they'll say you just put two hands on it and spread it open, right? But if you don't have to do that, more likely than not, you have a more expensive laptop. And it's the same thing with knives. So when I first got this, I was comparing this knife. This is a 4.7 ounce knife. I was comparing it to the XM18, right? Because I kind of thought that they were very similar. I know they have very similar shapes. They sort of have the same shape in the back spine of the handles, and I really thought that they were probably close. But once I actually got the knife in hand, this is a lot thinner, smaller knife. It's over an ounce lighter, and in hand it feels much smaller and thinner than the XM. But that's full titanium XM. Yeah, that's full titanium with the frag that I have. So a knife that this probably compares better to is, believe it or not, is the Koenig Arius. The Koenig Arius these are the same weight. The Arius is a little bit taller, and it's partially due to the lanyard backspacer just extends it. So when you hold them on end like this, the Arius is a little taller. But if you kind of broke it down to take that lanyard backspacer out, well, yeah, the handle is bigger on the Koenig, but the blades are identical. The blades are almost, they're very, very close in size. Very close, right? And the action on these knives are very similar. The Koenig Arius, if you don't know, might very well be, it is definitely one of the best knives ever made. I mean, there's no question about that. And as far as frame locks go, the tuning on this knife is absolutely spectacular. So when you flip this thing open, you hit it, the lock bar, it just drops shut. It's just a perfectly tuned knife. And in my opinion, this version of the Koenig Arius is the best version. Flipper tab with the textured scales. Because with these textured scales, and it's textured on both sides, it leaves 0 fingerprints. You never have to worry about fingerprints on it. The blade is like this, I don't know what this is, like a bead blasted. You never leave any fingerprints on that. And you never have to worry about those, I don't know what they're called, worm trails, snail trails in it, because it doesn't have a smooth surface. It has this texture to it. So yeah, fantastic. Really, really nice knife. And I'm going to tell you, this knife is 10 times, maybe 9 times the price of this, which is criminal. I don't even know how Tucson's even doing it. This knife is under $200, and it has action of a knife that is much more expensive. I'm actually comparing this knife. I mean, you see the company that it's keeping right here, the XM18 frag and the Koenig Arius. And when you're talking about the actual scales and the pattern on these scales, I could even bring out my flagship Demco 80/20, because I mean, it's not the same pattern, of course, and it doesn't have the same polish, but it's saying something. And we know what these cost, even though this is not a frame lock. So we know that you pay for name. Name costs something, right? Name costs something. It's not just the sum of the parts. It's the name, it's the build, it's where it's built. If it's built in America and it costs more to make it, then it usually costs more. But Tucson has done an excellent job with this product. I mean, this is one of the most underrated knives I've ever had. And actually, this is the most underrated knife I've ever owned. And I mean underrated in the sense of price compared to what you get. I mean, anyone that is a knife enthusiast that likes knives, and if you like metal like this is definitely a getter. You know, for $1.50, you can get this knife. And just, it's really crazy how cheap this knife is. And the company that is keeping, you see the company that is keeping, I mean, these are all very high-end knives. I mean, you're talking about the Shark Lock here. You're paying for the Shark Lock. This has, you know, the original Gold Fresh scales. I mean, you're talking about very high-end stuff, you know, in the knife world, right? I have my other, this is 20 CV. So it's basically the same steel, right? It is the same steel. This is M390. This is 20 CV. Same thing. You know, but I compare this, this knife to some of my best stuff. I really do, and it doesn't cost a fraction of the price. Is what it's amazing. So the jury's out. You know, I'm gonna carry it for a little while and see how I like it, and I'm sure I will. And but the action is just absolutely stellar. It is completely drop shutty. It's got the deployment hole, drop shut action. I mean, really? Yeah, very nice. Oh, and also the pocket clip. And you know, this knife is extremely unapologetic about right hand tip up, no lanyard hole. They said we don't care what you think. We don't care about lanyard holes. We don't care about, you know, helping out the lefties. You know, even though the action on this is so amazing, left-handed people, you know, you won't be losing anything on it. Lefties can use it also very well. You just got to worry about the lock bar, obviously. But yeah, it's right hand tip up, no lanyard hole, no reversible clip. They said we don't even care. Tucson said, "Yo, this is what you're getting." It's one of the best actions, one of the best actions out there. You know, yeah. And for reference, it's about the size of a Ace Grand, Giant Mouse Ace Grand. It's actually identical in size to the Ace Grand. You know, for people who don't realize what they're looking at, you know, this is an AD 20.5. This is the AD 20. If you're not familiar with the size difference, AD 20 is a massive knife. This is an 8.2 ounce knife compared to the 20.5. You can see the size difference is just massive. So anyway, yeah, that's all I got. I'm gonna just like I said, I'm gonna carry it. I'm gonna use it to cut some things. This is another user. I bought it on the secondary market. It's not a brand new knife. It has some scratches on the blade. You know, it's not perfect. It's not a safe queen. It's going to be used in for cutting stuff, which is fine. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.